When you shot this, obviously animation's often done in a booth on your own, independent. Was that the case, or was it?
No, it wasn't. I think John C. Reilly is the one who really requested that we record together, and we did. So we got to do all our stuff just like this. Looking each other's eyes and acting out the scenes, and I think it gave it that. We were able to improvise, and we took crazy left turns, and it just gave the movie that extra special sauce that you don't get if you're just sitting alone in a booth,
Because you're both comedic actors, and clearly, obviously your background is in comedy, so does that make it, the improvisation, do you think make the part, or?
The improvs were mostly comedic, we probably improvised less in the heartstring-y scenes, but yeah, it definitely came into play, and just being true to the character and the scene, and we knew what was happening in the scene. The script was already great,
You're playing this comedic role, improving a little bit, but the character feels quite a lot like a, how do I put this, slightly less rude version of you anyway.
Yeah, it felt very, I love this girl, I feel like she's like the my inner child, or maybe the child I'll probably never have, and I just felt very protective of her, but it was so cool, and it wasn't like, I hope I'm not dirty when we improvise, because you're playing this character. There's nothing, I felt completely free, and I wasn't inclined to go in a direction that would be not like Vanellope,
It's just a very endearing character, but one of the things that I wonder whether surprised you was that you're effectively now a role model for young girls, which...
Personally, I'd rather have I'd rather have any daughter that I would have use me as a role model than the women on a lot of the reality shows in America, at least, or like things that are so completely accessible to young girls that make them feel less than, that Real Housewives that are contorting their face and shooting it up with poisons because they're so afraid of aging or the natural progression of life, that their own daughters are not dreaming of their futures. I don't see myself as a bad influence. I see a lot of bad influences on girls in our world, and I don't count myself as one of them personally, but I do know that people often think that.
Well, I'd agree. I think I think, and this is going to sound like ass kissing, and I apologise, but I do think it's a nice influence, and that's both yourself personally and certainly the character, the sort of thing. But did you, 10 years ago when you were doing things like The Aristocrats, did you ever imagine that at any stage you'd be doing kids a film?
I did not. No, yeah, and I was, it just even that they wanted me was felt really nice, because I see myself differently than, I'm a three-dimensional person that has a home life and nieces and nephews and a whole other world that I'm living in that isn't just the two dimensions that maybe are accessible to other people that are very R-rated, or but it also felt nice, and right for me, because it's a character that I love so much, this little girl who's seen as obnoxious, who has substance to her after all, and whose glitch becomes, her superpower, and I think that's something that all kids and all people, can relate to, the thing that you hate about yourself, that you're ashamed of, or that you see as your biggest downfall, if you let it, can be your superpower,
I'm basically trying to ask you the sort of questions I'd asked John as well about Ralph, sure. Which is sort of that relation between Ralph and Vanellope.
Well, they're kindred spirits in that way, and it's probably the same reason why they butted heads. I think when people are very alike, they can be like magnets. They either attract or they're kind of repelled, but it's the same, you know. And he is this bad guy who just wants to be good, who wants to be a hero, who wants to get a medal, and he associates being a hero or having friends with this thing outside himself. Just like Vanellope wants to race, and she wants to get to play with the kids, you know, and what they realize in the end is that they've had that, what they've been seeking inside themselves the whole time. You know, it's kind of iconic because it's an everyman plight. It's, you know, any kid can relate to that and can be better for it in the end, realizing like they're okay just the way they are. You know, those things that maybe they're embarrassed about might be something that informs a greatness, you know.
Thank you very much, Sarah.